Okay, third graders, so now here's our second way we can round using number lines. So I still have the same step-by-step or example of how to use a number line to help you round to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. So this way has to be one of my favorite ways of how to round because I like to see the visual of the number line and to see what my nearest 10 is and what my nearest 100 is going to be. So me personally, I love using the number line to help me round. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm just going to start off super easy rounding to the nearest 10. So the very first step, as you can guess, is probably to what? Draw a number line. So I'm going to draw a quick little number line just so I can have the template in place. So here's my number line. And the number I'm going to work with is going to be, oops, dropped my marker. The number I'm going to do is going to be, let's think, Ms. V is having trouble thinking of a number. Let's do 35. Okay, so let's do 37, actually. I changed my mind. So 37 is going to be our number. So the very first step that you're going to have to do is fill in your number line. So you're going to have to fill in your number line with the nearest tens that you can think of for 37. So right off the top of my head, I know that 30 is going to be one of my nearest 10. So I'm going to put 30 right here, and then I know the closest 10 is also going to be 40, because if I count up from 30 to 40, that's going to be 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So that's my nearest 10. So right now I have my 30 and my 40 labeled on my number line. My very next part that I'm going to have to do in this step is find my halfway mark. Well, what does halfway mean? Halfway, what's in the middle? What's the middle number between 30 and 40? So just to make this easy, I'm just going to number each of them. So I know 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. So my halfway point means that it's equal on both sides. So if I count my numbers, I know that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 numbers on my number line. So what's half of 10? Well, that's the same thing as saying 10 divided by 2. So what's 10 divided by 2? Well, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I know my halfway mark is going to be 35. And if I want to check, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers on this side. So I know that 35 is my halfway point. Okay, the number that I'm working with is what number? 37, right? So I'm going to put a dot where my 37 is. So here's my 37. So if we keep with our rule, 5 or more round up, 4 or less round down. So I know 37. So if I do the same thing like I did in the previous video, underline my 3 because it's in the tens place, and circle my 7 to give me that clue. So I know 7 is more than 5. So I'm going to round to 40. So I know my closest, my nearest 10 is going to be 40. So I had to round up to 40. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do this with rounding to the nearest 100. So same thing, we're going to do the same thing rounding to the nearest 100. So the number that I'm going to choose is 300. 335. Sorry, friends, my kitty is trying to get into the camera again. She's just causing lots of ruckus. Hold on. Okay, so let's get back to it. So 335 is my number. I'm going to do the same thing that I did here. I'm going to draw my number line. And I know my hundreds, the two hundreds that 335 is going to be in between. I know that there's going to be 300. That's easy. My next 100 that comes in order is going to be 400. So I labeled my two end marks to give me that clue. So now I have to figure out the halfway mark between 300 and 400. So what's my halfway mark? Keeping in mind, if 10 divided by 2 is 5, my halfway mark is going to be 350. So here is my halfway mark because I know 50 is the halfway between, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, friends. She keeps getting in the way. There she is. Okay, so I know that 50 is the halfway mark in between 0 and 100. So now we just had to change the hundreds place to match our closest hundreds. So I know 350 is my halfway mark. So now I have to label 335 on my number line. So I know 335, this number 35 is not greater than 50. It's less than 50. So I know if I count it off by 10, so if I did 310, 320, 330, 340 to 350. So if I just count it up by tens, 300, 310, 320, 330, 340, that helps me break up my number line because these are big numbers. So now I know that 330 is right here and I need to do 335. So I know my mark for 335 is going to go right here. So same steps as before, where we're going to underline what we're rounding to, and we're rounding to the nearest 100. So underline this, the 3 in the hundreds place, and then I'm going to circle my second 3 in the tens place. So I have 3 underlined and the second 3 circled. So that gives me a clue. 4 or less, you round down. 5 or more, you round up. So the 3 right here is giving me an indicator telling me, hey, 3 is less than 4, so I know that I have to round down to my nearest 100, which would be 300. So I know I had to round down to 300. We are going to do this one more time with rounding to the nearest 100 because for me, the hardest part is finding that halfway point and then marking where it belongs on my number line. So let's try one more. My next number I'm going to do is, let's do 695. First step, draw my number line, figure out my hundreds. So my very first 100 that I know is that it's going to be 600. If I add 100 to 600, that's going to bring me to 700. So that brings me to 700. So there we go. I've labeled my hundreds on my number line. Now my next step is to find that halfway point. So my halfway point is going to be what? So keeping in mind the halfway point between 300 and 400 is 350. So my halfway point between 600 and 700 is going to be 650. So there's my halfway mark between 600, and 700. Now here comes the hard part, is making sure I put my dot in the correct spot for 695. So looking at this right here, 95, I know 95 is way greater than 50. So I'm going to label again, counting up by tens, because tens is a nice easy number for me to work with. So 650 goes to 660, then to 670, 680, 690, and then 700. So right there, boom, it just gave me my answer. 690 is right here, so that means I'm going to label 695 right here. So there's 695. Okay, so now this is actually pretty easy because look at, you can just see what's closer. What is the closest 100? But we're going to follow our rules and our steps to help us ingrain it in our brain so then we can do this on our own. So my first step is to what? Underline the number in the place that I'm rounding to. So I'm rounding to the nearest 100. So that means I have to underline the 6 in the hundreds place. Then step 2, what is step 2? Step 2 is to circle the number next to it, which is 9. So I have 6 underlined in the hundreds place, the 9 circled in the tens place to help me give that clue. Okay, so now what's the rule? The rule is 4 or less, you round down. 5 or more, you round up. Okay, so we're going to do this real fast. So 9 is greater than 5. So we know that we're going to have to round what? Round up. So we got to round up to 700. So I know that 695 rounded to the nearest 100 is going to equal, rounded up, 700. Okay. I kind of have shown an example. I have modeled for you. I have showed you how to use the steps and the strategies that I have provided on these slides. If you get stuck, please make sure you reach out and ask for help. I will do my best to check as much as I can during the week to make sure that you guys are understanding rounding. So we have rounded 2 different ways. We've rounded using place value, and now we just have rounded using number lines. You can make the decision of which one you like better. Like I said at the beginning, I love the number line. I think it's easier for me to see which way I need to round up or if I need to round down. So these are your 2 strategies that you have to use for rounding. Good luck on your assignment, and I will try to leave feedback as best as I can, okay? Thank you, 3rd grade.